Wait, what? A new road traffic act in the UK. All speed limits removed. Well, so you just drive as fast as you want? But that sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. No, say it again. Driving while intoxicated is now a criminal offense. Now it's a criminal offense. So drunk driving was not illegal before in Britain. Well, that explains a few things. Look, I gotta go. No, I gotta make certain Sparty doesn't get any ideas about this. Okay? Yeah. And then I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
And this is the headline of the month. The Nazi paramilitary militia, the SA, is under new management.
I'm Indy Neidell.
I'm Spartacus Olsson.
This is The Rise of Hitler. Welcome back to the Weimar Wire, covering January's jubilant, joyous, and jingoistic juxtapositions. Welcome back to a new year. Just as time changes the world, well, it also changes the Weimar Wire. We listened to your feedback and we've made some changes to our program.
Here are January's other big headlines.
As the economic situation worsens, 300,000 miners are first fired and then hit by wage cuts. Yep, I said that right. And protesters are shot or clubbed to death by police.
Hindenburg honors the 60th anniversary of the founding of the German Empire in front of more than 10,000 soldiers. And now, before we talk about our main story, let us briefly recap last month.
Yeah, December 1930, Germany was anything but quiet. Bruning's government struggled against votes of no confidence, while assassination plots and bomb scares shook the streets.
Meanwhile, all quiet on the Western Front caused riots, hailed abroad but condemned here, its brutal honesty about war sparking protests and bans.
And the global economic crisis worsened. Wages fell, strikes rose, and political factions grew ever more hostile.
And now, on to Where's Hitler? What's Adolf up to this month as 1931 gets going?
Well, to begin with, Hitler calls upon his followers to join him in a new year of struggle.
If in our darkest hour millions are stirred by the belief in a great revival and raise their heads in pride, then the symbol clutched by our eagle will shine in their eyes, the swastika rising above the Soviet star.
Something out of the ordinary happens this month. Hitler unknowingly gives an interview to a Jewish reporter.
Max Frenke, a Jewish journalist, randomly encounters Hitler in a Berlin beer hall and asks him a few questions. And Hitler, caught off guard, answers them.
So, what do you say about anti-Semitism? Isn't it a central part of your agenda?
Anti-Semitism isn't officially on our agenda. Our goal is to cleanse Germany of every element that stands in the way of its recovery.
And when you talk about Jewish capital, Jewish politics, and Jewish domination, what exactly are you referring to?
When I refer to Jewish capital, politics, and domination, I'm not just talking about Jews. I'm referring to everything that isn't authentically German.
Okay. Do you actually see the Jewish community as a threat to Germany?
They truly are a threat.
So what concrete steps will you take? Are you planning any direct action?
I plan no further action against the Jews beyond continuing the educational campaign I've already begun.
Okay. You've been harsh even on the government. How do you describe its policies?
I describe the entire Brüning cabinet as a Jewish cabinet, labeled Stresemann's foreign policy as Jewish, and even called the Berlin police Jewish.
And what do you think about the idea of peace? How does Jewish influence fit into that?
To the Jews, peace means giving up all pride in exchange for financial gain.
Finally, Herr Hitler, what is your main concern regarding the Jews in your vision for the ideal German state?
My only worry about the Jews is when they get in the way of creating the perfect German state.
Well, some might ask, does this mean the party endorses violence against Jews?
I will countenance no mob action, even against Jews. I never did. Jews have nothing to fear from us as long as they do not mix with us.
Wow, okay, I really don't know what to say. In any case, let us return to the main headline. Röhm is back and back in power.
Ernst Röhm has a history with the Nazi movement going back to the early 1920s. A key figure in the 1923 beer hall putsch, he played a crucial role in organizing the paramilitary forces that attempted to overthrow the government.
A staunch believer in a militarized revolution, he later clashed with Hitler over the SA's role, insisting it should be an independent force rather than a mere auxiliary to the party.
After stepping away from politics in 1925, he spent years struggling financially before taking a post as a military instructor in Bolivia. But Röhm never cut ties with Germany. He followed events closely, kept in touch with key figures, and now, fresh off the boat from South America, he's ready to take command once again.
And Adolf Hitler, supreme leader of the SA since November last year, officially makes Röhm chief of staff effective from the 5th of this month.
Naturally, this does not go unnoticed in the political spheres of Weimar Germany. Vorwärts, the social democratic newspaper, writes,
Hitler's Civil War army, the putschist Röhm appointed chief of staff. The National Socialists seem to believe the rule of law in Germany in 1931 is even more perforated than it was in 1923. The memory of those times has not faded among German Republicans, and they will need to prepare for vigorous resistance if the formation of a civil war army by right-wing putschists is tolerated in Germany.
The communists are also not enthused.
Röhm is a typical mercenary type who sold himself to a feudal reactionary government in Bolivia to crush the rebellious Bolivian masses in the interest of millionaires' profits. The hired gun of American bankers as the leader of the German Freedom Army. That alone exposes the hypocrisy of the National Socialist rhetoric about the liberation of the nation. Here is how Röhm himself announces his return to office.
I am aware that I've been called to decisive position at a decisive hour. The year 1931 will see the movement advancing further in an unstoppable march towards the inevitable victory, Germany's victory. Bringing the day of triumph closer depends, not least, on the SA. In a united front with unconditional loyalty and dedication, it will follow its path.
It is also interesting to note that in the liberal and conservative press, little to nothing is reported about the whole affair other than Röhm's new posting. Maybe that will change depending on what Röhm does in the coming months. He has already hinted at extensive reforms to the SA.
Let's move to the miners and their strike.
The German economy has further slipped into the global depression. And this month, the unemployment figures reach a new all-time high. In our coverage last year, we saw how employment figures have risen and fallen, but never exceeded 3.2 million.
However, this month, between 4.6 and 4.8 million people are unemployed in Germany, an increase of over 1 million in less than a month. As many as 30% of the workforce is unemployed.
The German mining industry is among the worst hit by the global financial crisis. However, every sector of the economy has suffered declines in employment, wages, and output since 1929.
Take coal mining. Between 1929 and 1930, the number of mines dropped from 266 to 253, and nearly 50,000 workers lost their jobs. Wages fell from 1.3 billion Reichsmark to 1.1 billion Reichsmark, while production shrank from 157 million to 143 million tons. Sales volume dropped from 164 million to 140 million.
Our Weimar Wire worst-case projections suggest the crisis could cut active mines to just 233, and employment by another 100,000 people. Coal output may collapse to 118.6 million tons, with sales plummeting accordingly.
But this isn't a distant threat. Mass layoffs are already here. Despite upcoming wage talks, the Mining Association has announced 300,000 miners dismissed. Arbitration over wage restructuring has failed. We are forced to terminate all employees under labor regulations as of January 15, 1931. Workers can keep their jobs if they agree to lower wages. That's like firing an entire country, like Luxembourg.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, well, last year their entire population was 300,000.
Luxembourg. Okay, well, imagine firing an entire country's worth of miners unless they accept your wage cuts. Operators demand at least an 8% reduction, while trade unions won't budge beyond 4%. The KPD, the communists, seizes the moment. Miners, now is the time. Bring all conveyor belts to a halt.
And meanwhile, the SPD warns, Do not allow yourself to be provoked, neither by the employers nor by the KPD.
Moderate trade unions resist the communist strike, and only 40,000 of the 300,000 miners go on strike.
Yeah, but 40,000 is enough for violence to erupt, and the Nazis fuel chaos to further destabilize the Republic.
On January the 2nd, in Moers, police opened fire on strikers, killing railway guard Jakob Hackstein. The next day, in Lindfort, 17-year-old Wilhelm Steffendorfer is shot dead.
That same day in Mengede, the Nazis incite violence, issuing threats and opening fire on workers. Police join the shootout, and Josef Schamowski is killed. Whether by a Nazi or police bullet remains unknown. On January 6th in Solingen, police crack down on strikers, bludgeoning Peter Wilms to death.
Wow. He's hearing bludgeoned to death is pretty heavy, right?
It is.
But level heads do prevail. By January 8th, as Forvatz puts it, the communist strike can now be considered completely collapsed. To ensure that things stay that way, President Hindenburg and Chancellor Brüning also get involved. A presidential emergency decree is issued.
Here's what it does. From now on, arbitrators can make binding decisions independently of both workers and employers.
Something Nazi MP and propagandist-in-chief Joseph Goebbels first calls a blow against the workers, and then a Marxist victory.
A blow against the workers? A Marxist victory? Which one is it? Sounds like claptrap.
A bunch of hokum.
Pure chinning.
Like banana oil.
Anyway, the arbitrators, empowered by the decree, eventually reach a compromise on the 10th. All layoffs are cancelled,
Okay.
and a 6% wage cut will be implemented.
Okay, Freddie, I've had enough of the problems of today, right? For a moment, let us wallow in the memories of the past. You see, January 18th marks the 60th anniversary of the founding of the German Empire in the Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles, and all but one faction of Weimar Germany sees cause to celebrate.
First, there is the official government event in the Reichstag, attended by the whole cabinet and President Hindenburg and 6 veterans from the Franco-Prussian War. The 81-year-old MP Wilhelm Kahl, who was there, holds a commemorative speech.
60 years have passed since that January 18th, and the world has changed beyond recognition. When the German Constitution declared an eternal union, no one would have believed it would last only 47 years, 10 months, and 8 days. And yet, here we are. The foundations of Europe have been shattered by a seismic shift.
But he also uses the occasion to give some advice to the German people.
But not memory, not mere remembrance alone. This day holds a deeper meaning. Renewal of will, patriotic decisions in the spirit of our history. Much has been taken from us, but the Reich has remained. A fundamental struggle against the state, against its supreme basic law, must never be a popular slogan. Afterwards, Hindenburg proceeds to the Berlin Sportpalast to celebrate and remember the empire with over 10,000 former officers and soldiers. Adolf Hitler also has a few things to say.
Bismarck realized the hope for a unified Reich, but not through democracy. In the struggle against democracy, the Reich was formed. Germany asserted itself like no state before. If we have lost our freedom, we all share the blame. But if the people recognize the need to overcome internal enemies, Germany will regain its independence. What was lost will be reclaimed. The National Socialists vow that Bismarck's Reich will rise again. By welcoming this future Reich, we honor the German fatherland. Of course, there are also doubters, detractors, and naysayers like the communists.
The SPD leaders celebrate a black, white, red imperial coronation. Truly, this reactionary fascist demonstration in the Reichstag completely exuded the spirit which prevailed in the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles in 1871.
So, unsurprising to everyone else, the communists, the self-declared anti-imperialists, do not partake in the celebrations of an empire. But reliable sources have informed us that on the same day, a secret meeting takes place.
Adolf Hitler meets with Kurt von Hammerstein-Equord, the leader of the Reichswehr, the German army. A career officer, Hammerstein served on the German general staff during the Great War, gaining a reputation for his sharp intellect and cool-headed command under fire. After the war, he becomes a trusted figure in the Reichswehr, helping shape the new army under the restrictions of the Treaty of Versailles.
During the 1920s, he rose through the ranks, becomes well-connected and a known pragmatist, more interested in military strategy than political gain.
On October 1st, 1929, he becomes chief of the Truppenamt, the covert successor to the German General Staff, which was banned by the Treaty of Versailles, replacing General Werner von Blumberg. Blumberg clashed with the Reich government after arguing that Germany could win a two-front war against France and Poland, an assessment that the government did not share. Unlike his predecessor, Hammerstein is wary of both military adventurism and political extremism, which is precisely why Brüning and Schleicher see him as the man for the job.
That's why, when Wilhelm Haie steps down as chief of the Reichswehr in late 1930, he is appointed to the post on November 1st, 1930, and promoted to General of the Infantry.
In his new role, Hammerstein is developing a long-term rearmament strategy. He is advocating for a larger army while maintaining the Reichswehr's independence from political interference.
And now, as 1931 begins, he meets Hitler face to face, knowing full well what the Nazi leader represents. What does Hitler want?
Well, as far as our sources say, Hitler wants to inquire whether there is any possibility of some kind of understanding between the Reichswehr and the National Socialist movement.
That could mean a lot of things, but none of them strike me as either good or legal for that matter. And remember, just recently came the Nazi oath to legality to promise to stick firmly to the Constitution's guidelines, to grab power the right way.
A secret meeting with the Chief of the Armed Forces does not lend credence to such promises.
Does not.
No matter though, as far as we know, Hammerstein rejects any advances. To him, the Reichswehr stays firmly within constitutional boundaries and outside politics.
Now on to a new segment, The Global Wire, giving you the most impactful events from around the globe. And this month saw quite a few. In Panama, President Florencio Harmodio Arosemena is overthrown and thrown into prison by the military junta.
And why?
Well, widespread dissatisfaction with corruption, economic mismanagement, nationalist opposition to U.S. influence, and economic hardship from the Great Depression, among other things. His successor is already in power, Ricardo Alfaro. What's next?
I got one. Mahatma Gandhi, the Indian independence leader and peaceful activist, is released from prison. At the first London Roundtable Conference, British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald pledges to advance India towards self-governance. The British Viceroy of India then frees Gandhi, it seems, as a conciliatory measure.
As a result, Winston Churchill, whom you'll remember for coming up with the failed Entente landings and unsuccessful campaign at Gallipoli during the Great War, resigns from the shadow cabinet. He does not want to see India become independent.
On the 27th, Pierre Laval becomes the new French Prime Minister. This news is well-ish received here in Weimar. Laval is known as a pragmatist, so maybe he is open to negotiating potential German rearmament, reparations, payments, and, well, stuff like that.
I have another interesting one. U.S. Major General Smedley Butler sparks an international incident when he recounts a story of Mussolini running over and killing a child with his car, with the Italian Duce allegedly remarking, "What is one life in the affairs of state?"
Mussolini does not like this, so he complains across the sea, which causes some diplomatic turbulence. Butler is ordered to court-martial on the 29th.
Finally, there is this. Unemployment is also high in the US and the UK at around 8 million and 2.6 million respectively. Britain has an unemployment rate of just over 20% and the US has one at about 15%. In comparison, Germany still fares worse though, at roughly 30%.
And now, the Weimar Wire Political Indicator brought to you by Time Ghost, bringing you the latest trends from around Germany.
As we've seen, the economic situation has further deteriorated this month, with strikes, wage cuts, unemployment, etc.
Such a development always negatively affects those in power. It is no surprise then that the Bürgerblock, the center around Chancellor Brüning Centrum's party, is trending down.
For extremists, On the other hand, such times are a boon. Also, no surprise then that the Nazis and the commies are up, up, up.
For the Social Democrats, the SPD, it is a mixed bag. They are an opposition party, but for the moment they serve as a willing opposition. This also leads to a mixed trend, or in other words, a neutral one.
And that wraps up the news for this month, and now some important questions for the future, like, will unemployment let up, or is this just the beginning of the real economic crisis?
How and when will Ernst Röhm begin transforming the SA? And what does that mean for Germany?
Is Hitler the new Bismarck, as he claims? And is the rise of a new German Reich imminent?
Will he also stay true to his statement in the interview and only employ educational campaigns against the German Jews? Time holds all the answers, and we here at the Weimar Wire will be here to cover them as they unfold.
It's thanks to all of you in the Time Ghost Army that we can bring you the latest from Germany as it unfolds.
Want to be part of the mission? Head over to timeghost.tv or patreon.com to join the Time Ghost Army. Weimar Wire, signing off. Excelsior!